Hello, my name is Mary Elizabeth Chin, and I will be presenting about regenerative agriculture and the climate crisis. So what is regenerative agriculture? Well, it is an approach to agricultural practices that acts holistically to function like a natural ecosystem. Whereas industrial agriculture focuses primarily on food production and capital gains, regenerative agriculture, in contrast, is working towards regenerating its own nutrients, sequestering carbon, improving soil health, and increasing biodiversity. So let's talk about the climate crisis and overall agriculture. Industrial agriculture is responsible for 11 to 15% of all greenhouse gas emissions from production alone. Agriculture also contributes to the climate crisis by emitting carbon and other greenhouse gases, decreasing biodiversity, deforestation, which leads to environmental degradation, releasing pollutants from fertilizers, etc. Whereas regenerative agriculture uses techniques to offset the climate crisis. And one of these techniques are the no-tilling, which essentially doesn't turn over the soil like is seen in this image. And when you turn over the soil, it releases CO2 back into the atmosphere. And no-tilling just prevents that from being released. So some methods of regenerative agriculture include no-tilling, like I just mentioned, which inhibits carbon from being released and oxidized into the atmosphere. Biodiversity is increased by utilizing polyculture, which resembles resilient ecosystems. Plants sequester carbon, improving soil health and increasing crop yields. Other practices of regenerative agriculture also include not utilizing synthetic fertilizers or any chemicals. Instead, fertilizers come from compost or other organic matter, and organic matter can be sourced from cattle or animals that graze in general. And this is a way that regenerative agriculture maintains soil health in a holistic way by being very intentional with the purposes of animals, plants, carbon, and nutrients, and how it all interacts together like an ecosystem. So let's talk about the relationship between carbon and regenerative agriculture. Most agricultural practices have been a source of greenhouse gas emissions through methane and carbon being released. However, regenerative agriculture is actually very mindful of the impact soil can have on carbon emissions. No-tilling is, like I mentioned before, a clear way to reduce carbon emissions. But regenerative agriculture goes a step further by focusing on how soil can become a carbon sink, and plants are able to capture atmospheric carbon through photosynthesis. And then from that carbon that's captured, 20 to 40% of carbon is processed into roots. And then the soil microorganisms process the carbon even further and are able to store the carbon into the soil, thus creating the carbon sink. And here is a diagram of how that carbon cycle kind of works, comes in through the plant, into the roots, and is stored into the soil. So overall, there are many benefits of regenerative agriculture, which include utilizing plants to process carbon and create carbon sinks in the soil, increasing crop yields and increasing biodiversity, and reducing emissions. Therefore, regenerative agriculture is a way to provide food security and combat the climate crisis. So thank you all for listening, and here are some of my sources, or actually all of them. Thank you. Bye-bye.